All right, everyone. Excited about this next podcast here. I just recorded one talking about a difficult experience I went through as a pastor and wanting to quit. And I know a lot of pastors obviously struggle with that as well, but there is hope. There's light at the end of the tunnel. And I'll be sharing more about that as the weeks and months progress. But yesterday, I actually talked about 3 things that really helped get me back on track. And again, we're always featuring a book if we can. And the good thing about these books is they are available as free downloads at our church website, westsidechristianfellowship.org. And all my books are there as free downloads. And this one will really help as well for men, young men, as well as those who are even 60, 70, 80 years old. We're never too old to regain lost ground and get back on track. The 4th thing, let me talk about the first 3 things real quick and recap. And this is good for everybody, not just pastors, anybody in leadership, men, women. So yesterday I talked about, I had to make, as a pastor, I hit a wall. I was in a funk. There's no other way to describe it. I don't want to record podcasts. I don't think I've recorded a podcast in 6 months. During that time, and just now starting to get back into that. It was pretty recent. While I'm recording this now, it's pretty recent. I'm still going through, some of the things as far as getting back on track spiritually and emotionally. And the good news is my marriage was never healthier. My relationship with the kids was never better. So thank God the family life wasn't really suffering, but I was in a funk about, just my calling and sticking with it. And, is the Lord going to redirect me? After your dreams die over a season of time or a period of time and you're praying and it just seems like, years and years go by, health issues that I'll open up about in the future as well. And I did on the other podcast, just disappointment, discouragement. And then, of course, pastoring, you are in a huge spiritual battle. It's funny. I just got an email yesterday from our webmaster. They said, I have never worked with any other client, and not even close, whose website is attacked, with malware or trying to access it. It's just, so ironic. But so it's just weighing on me, and I didn't want to preach, and it's hard when a preacher doesn't want to preach. I didn't want to teach. I didn't want to go to church. I'm like, Lord, help me. And I just listened to worship for hours in the morning, 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. Or I guess I got to get going with my day. And, just it was very, very difficult season, but looking back, I know God takes us through things. So now we can look back and help others. And there were some areas I was in disobedience and I knew it. I was convicted for quite a while. And I opened up about that on the other podcast. Go back and listen for more details. I think it's called Why I Almost Quit. And basically it was getting my body in alignment more so to with what God wanted to do. Health, nutrition, fasting, but I was consuming too much throughout the whole day. I mean, I think I ate from 5 a.m. to 7, 8 at night. No fasting window or anything. And I know better, of course. And because of that, I was putting on weight, becoming very sluggish, and it was hard. Even caffeine, again, gained a stronghold. And I've opened up about that in the past. I know not everyone's open to that, and that's okay. God deals with us in different ways. But for me, it's a drug. It's a central nervous stimulant. So I was just, still, looking to that to get some energy. And, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. We could get in, to how it blocks, it actually blocks the receptor for adenosine, and then you don't feel sleepy, but then eventually you crash. And so I knew it. Plus I was addicted to it. And believe it or not, I've heard from people all over the world over the last couple of years on how our teachings have helped them restructure their life, and especially getting off caffeine, or at least minimizing it, because we use it as a drug throughout the whole day, and that's not healthy. Take it to the Lord. Man, I don't feel much. I fall right asleep. Well, you don't get good sleep at all because it affects your rapid eye movement, your REM. It's just constantly keeping your body in a state of fight and flight. You're irritable more easily. You're anxious, more irritable, depression. I mean, there's tons of research for those who are interested. You can even look at the manual for mental disorders that they use, and it talks about caffeine-induced things. So anyway, I've already talked a lot about that. Every time I talk about this topic, man, people get convicted. I enjoy it. Well, good for you. Good for you. I've never said a person shouldn't. But are you getting upset because you're convicted? Because people who aren't convicted don't get upset. They're like, well, I enjoy one now and then or in the morning. And hey, if it works for you, good for you. And maybe I will in the morning a little bit, but definitely not later in the day. And switching over to matcha green tea was real helpful too. But consuming too much, and God was dealing with me. And I'm an extreme person. Okay. My wife knows this. Like, if I'm going to fast, it's water only. Man, I'm fasting. And even if I have a little bit of food or a little bit of juice, it's like, I'm not really fasting and looking for that perfection. But God has taught me over the years that it's really not about perfection. It's about direction. And I believe I got that quote from John MacArthur 20 years ago, and such a great point. I would, I blew it. What happened? I had a handful of nuts. Oh, forget it now. It's like, get back on track. And so what he taught me through this is and scriptures just came alive. I couldn't stop writing them down on discipline. Like I'd be reading Proverbs. When you find some honey, just have enough to meet your need. It's like you're famished, you're this, and you just have enough. Don't gorge. And then, a man who doesn't rule his life, like discipline, is like a city with broken down walls. Boom. And then I discipline my body. Paul said, I bring it into subjection. Boom. And then there's about 3 other ones, that we're talking about. Making no provision for the flesh, disciplining ourselves, a couple other ones in Proverbs that were so important. And so I realized that I was lacking discipline in that area. And so once I begin to shore that up, and I did go into, even as I'm recording this, actually, I'm in a season of fasting where it's just a very minimal amount, and I feel so great. My energy is so good. Something like the Buchenheimer Wellhimly Clinic in Germany, or Dr. Paul Brillhart's incredible book, Fasting in a Gluttonous World. Fasting in a Gluttonous World is very eye-opening. I highly encourage it. He recommends more of 500-600 calories a day. I'm getting on rabbit trail, so I hope it's going to be helpful. He's more around 500-600 calories a day when he helped a lot of people with obesity. And his was mainly keto, where Buchenheimer is mainly juice. The reason is Buchenheimer, for 100 years, they've done this. What happens when you have just a minimal amount of juice? Supposedly you do stay in autophagy and ketosis because it's only 250 calories for the whole day. But they're trying to get mTOR to decrease. mTOR, the mammalian target of rapamycin that I've talked about before. And they're seeing that an increase in mTOR, also an increase in IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor 1, are leading to cancer, more so in disease. And so so this type of fasting decreases mTOR. So it's very good for health and longevity. But then Dr. Paul, in his thought process, which I agree, it depends what you're looking for, is getting the body in ketosis. So if you have 500-600 calories the whole day, try it. It's no joke. Trust me. You're keeping that body in ketosis. You're not throwing in the glucose that could knock you out of autophagy, and even that blood sugar level rising and insulin. And it's really good. But it depends on what your goals are. For me, I kind of go back and forth, and I like, it's a kind of a mixture of both of what I'm doing. If I just get, man, I got a next hour, I've got a busy schedule. I feel like laying down, stick of grass-fed beef jerky, 60 calories, boom, really helps. So I hope these rabbit trails help, because I had no idea to speak on that. But I do know this. We underrate just how important our health is. We really do. You're young, you really care about it. Trust me, as you get older, and we're seeing all this rise of disease, all this rise of obesity. Obesity, I don't even know what the numbers are anymore, 70%. Adults, and it's just increasing. So I feel God wants me to really get this message out to people, how important this is. How long I'll be doing it, I don't know. That's up to Him. But as pastors, we often don't talk about this, and we love to use that verse out of context. Hey, brother, don't you know that bodily exercise profits you little? It's godly exercise. You know how many times I've had that verse thrown in my face? And I've opened up about this before. For the first 10 years of our church plant, I used to be actually a motivational speaker, and I would talk on health and fitness. And I studied with the National Academy of Sports Medicine. Never got a degree from them. And back then it was a lot about accelerated results. And, back then creatine was just coming on the scene. Eating 5 meals a day, the type of resistance training, HIIT training, which is high intensity interval training, and lots of things, at the core training was coming in as far as strengthening your core, and so many other things. And I wanted to bring that into, the church too. But they would keep saying those scriptures and, things like that. And like, okay, and kind of got defeated about it. But the irony is it was always the people who were out of shape. And they like being out of shape, and they like their junk food. They were the ones who were always lecturing me. And I've eventually realized that. So I eventually brought it back into the church, and just began to weave it into some of my sermons, have some health seminars. And the irony is the feedback we get, if you follow the ministry, we get lots of feedback from people all over, just recently, the UK, Canada, Africa, but one of the biggest things that people say is how much the ministry has helped them with health and fitness and fasting. We just had another couple people actually were traveled out here from different states because of that topic. It's like, okay, this is a big deal. So back to that scripture, it just says physical exercise when compared to spiritual disciplines is second place. It's a nothing because the physical realm is gone. It's the spiritual that matters. Now, to say that doesn't apply now as far as, but he did say it profits a little. It profits a little now physically because you can lead your family better. Can you imagine, husbands, if you took better care of yourself and you weren't snapping at your kids, you weren't craving alcohol or food, and you weren't getting sloppy and laying around a lot. And that's what's happening. The deadbeat dad. And again, I can struggle with these things myself. So I'm not casting stones. I'm not pointing fingers. I know there's fingers pointing back at me, but your health changes how you raise your kids, the energy you have with your kids. You can go shoot basketball with them, play baseball with them. You have more energy. It's incredible when you discipline your body. So if you can't fast, consider just a minimal caloric intake. Last night I told my wife I got 8 at night, cause you get real tired easier too, 8 till 2 a.m, just out. Didn't even get up, and then went back to sleep for an hour or two. But you should feel so much better. Not to mention that, is your marriage better? Absolutely. Pastor, are you preaching better? Absolutely, because the king's stomach has been dethroned. And as a result, the discipline results in the filling of the Holy Spirit. If you do teachings on how to be filled with the Spirit, of course, humbleness, meekness, brokenness, but all of those things take discipline. As you're disciplining your flesh, the byproduct is being filled with the Spirit. So it took me about 13 minutes to get to this point. But that was one of the things I talked about. I had to change this aspect of my life because I was just, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing, expecting different results. And that was not happening. I was stuck. Once I got my health back on track, and I was having some health issues as I was getting older, and I'm still in the process of losing some weight. You'll probably see here in future recordings that 215 I was at, now probably 203. And so I want to keep getting to a healthy weight and hopefully maintain that. Again, it's not about weight. If I would feel fine and everything was fine, I'd just stay here. But it's when you lessen that weight, it really helps. Also, did you know that for every 1 pound, and I've been having knee issues that are completely gone. For every 1 pound you lose, it takes away 4 pounds of pressure. Just let that sink in for a minute. Oh, my knee. Oh, this. Oh, my back. For every pound you lose, it takes away 4 pounds of pressure. You can research it. Studies have come out. PubMD probably talks about it as well. I'm sure National Academy of Sports Medicine, other places. But let's just say, you know what? You get on track and man, you lost 20 pounds. 20 pounds. That's 80 pounds less pressure. Jogging might happen again. I actually prefer walking over jogging. I think that's how we are designed. I'm going to do another podcast on this, but when it comes to health, fitness, fasting, what type of exercise, red light therapy, cold plunge, heat saunas, hydration in my water, how much water, if you just look it through a creation lens, it'll answer a lot of your questions. What diet is best? I hear keto this, I hear plant-based, and I've talked about all that. I'll feature that book. Oh, maybe this one you can download for free too. That's actually, I wrote that when I was coming out of 24-Hour Fitness. But what diet? And we get so confused. And if you're like me, you get confused and you overanalyze and it paralyzes you. When we're confused, we don't, well, if this isn't going to work, I don't want to do this. I'm eating too many carbs. Trust me, don't worry. You don't have to worry about this stuff. if you look at through the lens of creation, how did God create us? Did he create me to have a sweet potato now and then? Absolutely. But there might be a season where you need to minimize glucose and carbs, maybe just veggies and meat and, whole, raw dairy if you can get it and things like that. So how did God create us? What type of diet? God-given food. Initially, we were designed to eat vegetables, and then he allowed meat. And then within that, he gave the land over milk and honey and curds, which curds is dairy. But it's got to be clean. It's got to be in moderation. That's really the key. And then should I cold plunge? Sure. Absolutely. If you want to, go for it. Just don't get crazy about it. Should I do red light therapy? If you want, the sun's better. The sun's vitamin D. And I truly believe that the sun doesn't necessarily cause cancer. It's our own immunity that allows the cancer to penetrate. So, exercise. What type of exercise? Creation. Were we created to jog or walk? Of course, walk more. Now, if you want to jog, great. Sprinting's actually good. I can't do anymore. Maybe in the future. We can just keep going down the list. How much water? I just posted something, caused a little bit of debate there. I've always thought, why do I have to drink this gallon of water? This is this is going to be tough. Now, if you're dehydrated and you need to do it, that's fine. But if you're eating a lot of, let's say fruit, veggies, the water from those things, you get water, you're fine. But I was, how was I created? To walk, there's a stream. You take some in from the stream and maybe you fill a little thing, your little wineskin, hopefully there's no wine in there, and you might need another hour. And I've always thought that, do we have to drink that much water? Is it really hydrating our cells? Because our cells are going to only hold so much water. And then I also know that water, actually, when you're fasting, you're not supposed to drink a lot of water. You think you are, but the more water, the more the electrolytes are flushed out. And you actually need the electrolytes: potassium, magnesium, sodium, chlorine, and you need these. And so if the water's flushing it out, you're losing electrolytes, you become sick, you get heart palpitations, and it's not good. So you just want just enough water that the body, is desiring. Creation. So again, look at creation. Don't worry, I'm getting here. Why don't you email us or comment that these rabbit trails are helping? Because I have a feeling they are. So got my health under check. And then I said, you know what, Lord, even if I don't feel like it, that was number one. Number two, even if I don't feel like it, which was rarely did I feel like it, I would, and praise God, just a shout out to our associate pastor, Pastor Abram, who actually went through this with me. He didn't really know about it. I shared maybe a little bit. It wasn't really wanting to, let the elders know just exactly what I was. Other than I said, hey, difficult season right now, health issues, and because I didn't want to alarm anybody, because I know I couldn't quit. Obviously, when God calls you, that's the anchor. That's the anchor that keeps you there. And so he was very flexible, helped out a lot. And so number two was, no matter how I felt, I said, you know what? I've got to get back to preaching. And I would try to just, guest speaker or have him handle a lot, and just, I'm like, well, but if the Lord's called me to do that, if he's gifted me in that area, even though some people don't prefer my style, that's fine. I know others do, and God designs us differently. So don't beat up your pastor if he doesn't preach like Isaiah and Jeremiah, right? He's a different calling. Thank God for them. If they're steadfast and in the word, look at that. So I said, you know what? I'm going to show up and I'm going to preach. God help me. And I can't tell you how many Wednesdays I remember, Sundays I remember, where just the Spirit of God would just come upon the message, and it would be incredible. And I thank God for doing it. And then back on Monday, I'd be in that discouragement again. And I think a lot of it had to do with that. I really can't put the pieces together. Say, do this, do this, do this. I'm just sharing my experience. So once I just began to do that, I was like, okay. And then the next thing was, Lord, wherever you've called me, whatever you want to do. Let's say our church shrinks. So many people, I won't even get it how many people moved out of California. Talk about discouraging. At this point, I don't even have a number, but I know we were at 200 people from our church moved 3 years ago. So, and it's a monthly occurrence. So we're probably, if I were to just guess, if you count their kids and stuff, then you're way over that. But I would say, maybe let's count the family, the kids, the spouses, probably if I were just to guess, I'd say 500 people have moved from our church. But praise the Lord, our attendance it's maintained completely. And so, God, obviously, still brings people. But that was discouraging, just having friends leave, future elders leave, deacons leave, and just people we're close to. And it can really was wearing on me. So, that final point, I said, you know what, Lord, these people are moving. And of course, people, you should move to Idaho. You should move to Texas. You should move to Florida. You should, Nashville, Tennessee, man, a church plant would be great there. Westside Christian Fellowship, Nashville. And I'm like, you know what, why would I want to leave? I love California too. It's like, everything we read about in the news, we got to be very careful. Cause I'll read about, what happens at a gas station, right? You see it online. Like, okay, kids, Morgan, you're never going to the gas station. Let me fill up your cars. And then you see something, look what happened outside of a Walmart parking lot or Target parking lot. They're waiting for them. And okay, nobody go shopping. Let me do the shopping. And so it's ridiculous because we're not trusting God. So I said, Lord, whatever you want to do, whether if we get down to one service, if I die here, hey, Lord, I am so thankful for where you brought me and what you brought me through. I should be dead. I should be buried in a cemetery. I shouldn't even be experiencing this. God, there's so much I did in my 20s even that I just can't believe it, that I'm so ashamed of. Lord, thank you. I just want to be thankful for wherever you put me, whatever happens at the church. If I preach it down to one service, God, I know as long as I say humble and broken, not arrogant, God, it's my life. Here, take it with me. Take my life and, whatever you want to do with it. And, because during this time, I've got a friend of mine planted a church, a mile from my house, another friend, over in another area of town I have a passion for. It's like, wow, Lord, are we going to plant another church somewhere too? And so just kind of that reality that God gets you to that spot of brokenness. And so those three things really help. Here's a fourth thing I didn't talk about, which I would say probably is at the top of the list, obviously. And it goes along with the others, for sure. And that point is seek him no matter what's going on. Seek him no matter how you feel. Seek him regardless of the distractions and the discouragement. Seek him and you will find him. And so through all this, what I love is, I never lost my way to the altar necessarily. And I never, was thinking of walking away in regard to character and godly disciplines and things like just the role of pastor. But what I shared earlier, every morning, 3:00, 3:30, putting on worship and just pressing in, God, I don't feel like it, but Lord, I'm going to seek you with all of my heart. And just that pursuit turned into a passion. And it was interesting because I'm like, even though all this is happening, I love this relationship and I'm seeking you. It's almost like if I could explain it in terms you might understand, it was almost like God was holding me through this challenge. It's like, son, I've got you. There's some things I need you to work on. And as soon as you work on them, this load will be lifted. And I'd say, but Lord, I have this load and it's hard for me to do these things. Again, everything I just talked about the last 20 minutes, especially in regard to health and fasting and things. But Lord, I need, and it was just, but he was just kind of waiting for me. Those who wait upon the Lord also shall renew their strength. But I truly believe this. Often we're waiting on God. But could it be that he is waiting on you? I mean, that's a biblical principle. If we had time to break that one down, if you do this, I will do this. If you do this, I will do this. If you do this. And that word seek, I've talked about this before. The word seek it's not just like, oh yeah, I look for my glasses. No, it's like looking for your lost child. That is a type of seeking that the word breaks down into in the Hebrew. It's what it means actually is, I'm going to keep looking for this until I find it. So you lose your child at the mall. You're not going to try for 10, we try for 15, 20 minutes, go to the sheriff's department. We're good. We try for 20 minutes. No, it's your life. That's your life from that day forward. That's your life. So how much more the believer seeking in that context, Lord, this is my life, regardless of how I feel, regardless of the distractions and the pain, the disappointment, the bitterness, my loved one passed away, or this is happening like Job, though he slay me, yet will I trust him. And boy, that seeking gave me the strength to preach those sermons. That seeking helped me stay right on like all this stuff's going on in me, but that seeking was what kept me on the right path, what actually filled me with joy in the midst of some of this. So it was interesting. I'd have so much joy sometimes. I'm worshiping. I just didn't want to go to church. I didn't want to preach. I didn't want to pastor anymore. It's like, I don't understand the dichotomy there, but it was very interesting. And of course, looking back now, I explained this in the last podcast. Once all this happened, God said, okay, it's like a reset, basically was a reset. Okay, now I want you to go, share a lot of this with other pastors. I'm like, well, how's that going to happen? And then I get an email, speaking engagement, down Southern California. Then I get another one comes in and from in Ohio to a large gathering there with I don't remember exactly where, Columbus. And then another email about how God's going to use this, and just and really seeing now, okay, He brought me through so I can help other people, not just pastors, anybody. I mean, you can be encouraged by any of this. He brought me through so I can help you as well in these 4 areas. I think these 4 areas are critical. I think they go together. Try 3 of them while giving into gluttony and just eating whatever you want, not much sleep, not caring about your body. It won't work. The physical affects the spiritual. What I mean by that is how I take care of my physical affects my spiritual. Even medication. If you're on certain medications that trip you up, that can affect your spiritual health. I mean, you name it. I mean, they're interwoven. I don't want to get deep into stuff that's not biblical, but if you look, biblically speaking too, the more you discipline your body, make no provision for the flesh, say no, resist Satan, flee, I guess that those choices, those physical choices lead to spiritual benefits. Because joy always follows discipline. So the more you discipline yourself, the more joy will follow. Not being legalistic, not being rigid, because we can go right into Pharisee mode, right? Like I just explained earlier. I'm not really fasting unless it's water only. Biblically speaking, when it talks about fasting, that's what it means. Actually, the Hebrew word, I did a deep word study on this before and looked at all the different references. I think 77 times in the New and the Old Testament in the different situations, except for, I think, other than Daniel. And that really wasn't a fast. That's Daniel chose not to eat of the king's delicacies. It's a great thing to do if God calls you to do it. But fasting is shutting the mouth. You shut your mouth and nothing comes in. So biblically speaking, fasting is just having water, because water is not an allurement. It doesn't entice us. It's just a necessity. So I believe you can still have water. And that's why it said Jesus hungered. He didn't thirst. He hungered. So anyway, hope that helps. Again, you've got to do that. You got to seek God regardless of what you're going through. And then you got to say, Lord, and what that did is it gave me a thankful heart. Number 2 here, I'm going to tell you, when I said, Lord, wherever you want to put me, however you want to use me, I'm good. Thankfulness came in. Thankfulness, thankful. And that the fruit of that is incredible, because what's the opposite of thankfulness? Bitter and depressed. And then the next thing was obviously fulfilling my duties as a pastor, regardless of how I felt, because God says, I've called you to do this. Now go and do it. Go and do it. I know it's tough. I know you're going through it right now. Go and do it. So, and then I got my lymph nodes were swollen a little bit. So, I wanted to do it for some health reasons as well, because fasting, when you get deep into it, will begin to consume those tissues that are not relevant. So anyway, that was another side note. And then of course, the 4th thing after I just said of, I'm going to do what I need to do regardless of how I feel. Men, maybe that's good for you. Be a man, be a father, be a husband, regardless of how you feel. Turn off the TV, tell the friends that are dragging you down to hit the road, Jack, don't ever come back. Focus on your spiritual disciplines, and God will reward that. Even when you don't feel like it. And I'll just be honest. Most of the time, you're not going to feel like it. The 4th thing was getting that physical in check, getting those physical appetites under the discipline of the Holy Spirit.